Okay, so hey guys, decided I'm going to give up with the streaming thing because I checked my internet and it turns out I've only got 0.5 megabytes upload speed, so it's pretty much never going to work. In the last 3 streams we've done head guides, which with a groom looks like this. Give me a second to generate. There we go. There's still a few artifacts in there from just not properly refining my maps, but we're 80%, maybe 70% there with the actual groom of the character. One of the key things with the guides we've got so far is the layering of them. So if I turn off all the modifiers, one of the best ways to check your layering is to turn off every modifier, anything that could break up the spec, then show your groom. And basically you're looking for sharp lines. So because the layering of this is mostly okay, you'll find that the spec is pretty smooth from area to area. There are a few little things here or there, like there's a bit of weirdness back here, but as I said, we've removed all possible breakup. So if your layering looks good like this, then it's pretty much there. Yeah, so in this session, probably going to go through the eyebrows, how I'm going to do those for this character. So yeah, in terms of preparation, I've got the eyebrow geometries in their own layer as template mode. And there's one thing to quickly know about Xgen in terms of guides, is that it operates, well, I'm not sure if this is technically true, but it's the way it seems to be from like kind of testing around. It seems to operate on a smoothed version of the mesh. So if your mesh is really low poly, and you've got something like eyebrows that are really short, they might disappear into the model, especially if you've got displacement. So try to keep your model, I mean this is pretty low poly, but it's just enough detail in there for it to not sink into the head too much. However, for the sake of like generating my guides, I'm going to create let me find this, a subdivided version, which is a lot higher poly. It's just for me to draw my curves on. So eyebrow guides are a bit strange in that you tend to have a lot more than you'd expect to get like proper flows and that sort of shit. So if I go into generate, the way I like to make them is using paint effects curves. So you start off by making your mesh paintable, and that makes it live. Then you go paint effects tool, and obviously with a whack on unduly, you just kind of draw the flow you want. Your brush might be a bit too big. If it is, go into the generate template brush settings and set this global scale quite low. I quite like to use about double hair width because it stays clear to see. But yeah, so it's pretty simple really, just kind of draw on the flows you want. I like to do the bottom line first and get my general flow. Obviously at work, at MPC, I wouldn't just freehand it like this. I'd definitely get a few cameras lined up and kind of trace the reference. That's probably why we use this technique quite a lot, is because it allows us to get really close. One of the key things is obviously the length of these is relatively uniform. This obviously changes a lot per groom. Sorry, just struggling to kind of talk and work at the same time. But yeah, so like try if you can to keep your distribution of these curves fairly even, and keep the flow in mind. So one thing you'll find quite a lot with eyebrows is there tends to be like a region here where everything's going upright, and it also seems to be a line that you'll see kind of traveling through, if you excuse the copy drawing. Yeah, so you'll see like a line. Basically what that's caused by is a difference of flow direction where the two directions meet, and that creates like a little peak. It changes, it doesn't just go straight down the middle. Normally it kind of goes like this, so that hair down here is a lot more upright than the hair up here, and up here it's up and more down, so that'll make sense in a sec. So yeah, just kind of blocking out guides. I'll probably shut up for a bit, to be honest, so I can just kind of get on with the working. But yeah, so let's go through this. These aren't great guides, probably just because I'm talking at the same time. It's quite tricky. But that line I was quickly mentioning is basically this, where these two directions meet. And that's quite important to get your specular breakup. Obviously, it massively varies depending on reference. Some people have really bushy eyebrows, some people have really thin eyebrows, and that changes kind of this flow that you do a lot. So ideally, get a reference and try to line it up with a camera set up on your model. God, there we go. Yeah, obviously in work I'd spend a lot more time, as I said, but yeah, I am recording and I don't want to babble too much, so get something like this. But yeah, so let's say, you know, we spent the right amount of time, we properly traced reference, or at least looked at reference long enough to get the correct flow. I'm only going to do one eyebrow while I'm working on this live, just because, like, you know, everyone's always better at one side than the other, and it will take me a lot longer to get this side right than it will the left eyebrow. So, but yeah, so we'll get something like this, and then the next thing we want to do is extend these borders quite a lot. Now, again, this is something that varies wildly from person to person, and also from groom artist to groom artist. I like to add a lot of guides all the way into the middle, just because with eyebrows they tend to extend out a lot. So I'll do stuff like this. Yeah, so I'll just kind of extend those borders. The reason I like to extend them is because eyebrows tend to fade out quite a lot. Like, they're really thin in the middle, but they are still there in some people. Obviously, you get people with monobrows. It's, you know, a given that you'll do this if they have a monobrow. But you just want to extend all the edges so that if you need to, like, feather the eyebrow out, you can, you know, slowly move out your mask and paint white or like a off-white feather out, and you'll get a nicer fade. Because far too often online you see, especially like, you know, student grooms, like all the grooms I did when I was a student, they end really suddenly. You actually be surprised how far eyebrows can go down, like down the head. There was one reference, obviously I can't say what it was, but there's one reference for a show where the character's eyebrows actually kind of got down to here. Like, there's a few hairs, just one or two, that reached all the way down here, and they weren't peach fuzz, they were visibly the same as the eyebrow itself. But yeah, so you just want to kind of extend all these borders out, and that just gives you a bit more wiggle room, as I said, with the density map. So do something like this. There are a few cases that I've seen, although this is something that you'd only really do for photoreal characters, where to get a really nice transition in, like a really nice flow, there's a really good example of this that I'll put in the comments of this video when I'm done. But you can actually start your eyebrow guides all the way up here, and like really slowly fade it in. It makes a really nice transition between the peach fuzz and the eyebrows, which is sometimes quite important. The transition in the middle here is actually sharper than you'd expect. It's just a sudden change, like curve like that. You get like a little weird shape in the middle, but that's pretty much how it is. Yeah, so you get something like that. Once you're happy with that, you can obviously do the other side, although I would heavily recommend spending more time getting the flow right than I did. And as I said, the line shouldn't be just down the middle. Mine's ended up like that because I'm just talking and working at the same time. But yeah, so once you got this, I'll just quickly go into my outliner. I made a few earlier just because I didn't want to spend too long. Although, again, these took me like, I think, 20 minutes, so I wouldn't recommend spending that little amount of time. But generally speaking, you want this level of density with your guides, and that will give you plenty of control and all the different changes in direction that you'd normally want. So yeah, so we've got these paint effect strokes, roughly 200 or so in here. So we can just go modify, convert, and then paint effects to curves. and give that a second to process. Okay, then I'm just going to go into my channel box editor for a second. Hide this. For a sec, delete the history on them, group them, so then we can keep our outline a lot cleaner. They all in there, yeah, they're all in there, cool. My computer's struggling quite a lot recording at full HD, and grooming on a 5-year-old laptop isn't ideal. So these are still strokes. What's going on there? What if I convert paint effects to curves? Strange. Oh well. So show paint effect strokes. Just hide the group. So got these, delete history, go into Xgen, make our normal head visible. Yeah, so see how these are sunk into the head quite a bit. Obviously this is something we'd want to fix anyway, but that's just kind of saying how if your eyebrows are flat to the head, they're going to sink through the mesh, or if you've got short eyebrows and your model isn't high res enough like mine isn't, they'd sink in, so we'll fix that in a sec. So yeah, that's like that. Select the model, Xgen, descriptions, create description, eyebrow description, placing and shaping guides. Yep, that's all cool. Right, so we got that. And outliner. Yeah, forgot about that. Channel box. So that's all the curves. Xgen. Utilities. Curves to guides. Don't delete them. So now we have all our guides in place. What I recommend doing at this point is, obviously they're really flat to the head, and you would want to spend longer on this than I'm obviously about to. I like to scale them a little bit, that's just kind of to edge it out a little bit. But then go into your Sculpt Guides tool, go into settings, turn off lock length. Get quite a large brush and slowly kind of edge them out to create the volume that you want. This is obviously incredibly rough, you want to spend longer on it so you get actual height variation, because mine are going to be incredibly flat because of the way I've just done this. Obviously they gain a lot of length doing that as well, but it's not too much of a big deal. But this is obviously just the quickest way to block out your brows. I then recommend selecting all these and rebuilding them at a lower count, because we made them from paint effects, they're going to be really high subdivisions, so it'll be like 50 or so. So we'll just rebuild these with 4 should do. And that will take a second, and it also helps like smooth a few of them out. But yeah, so we've got our guides. And then, yeah, so we'll go in here, 10 modifier. See what it'll do. Create a map. Eyebrow, mask, black, 50. Great. So I'm just going to turn off update preview automatically. Paint tool. For first passes, it's really good just to use a solid brush. It's not too important, but it's something that's worth doing. Just to block it out, because you always want to start with your main values. One thing you'll find on photoreal grooms is there's obviously a hell of a lot of density variation, and again this depends on your reference, but generally speaking you'll find that the inside edge, so like this area, if you can see my mouse, hopefully you should, that area will be about half the density of the rest of the brown. Let's clean up that line. Come on, there we go. So yeah, this area here will be about half the density, Obviously you want to feather that in quite a lot, you want to add a lot more texture. Mine's just solid values. And you can also find sometimes that there's like a little area down at the bottom here that's also quite soft. That said, Edward, this character, is supposed to have quite solid eyebrows, hence why they're literally modelled as a block in the original asset. But yeah, so something like that we'll do. Hit save textures so that we can always recover this texture, and save that too. There we go. So that will give us something close to what we want. Yeah, so in terms of eyebrow density, generally speaking, like if you search it online, you'll find that general consensus is people have around 1,500 eyebrows. This is something that I like to just kind of push around quite a lot. But to check how many primitives you've got, just go into log statistics level, so that's a 1, and whenever you show your groom, you'll get took 0.056 seconds to render, and then that will say the amount of primitives you've got. So I'll set this to 75, so now I'll have a roughly 1,500. Yeah, close enough. Reach that down a little bit. Yeah, so this is that peak that I was saying about. You get like different spec directions, it adds a bit more interest. So yeah, taper. Something like that will do. Then width, reduce that about 2. What is it at the moment? Yeah, so there we go. You can see in the spec direction a bit better. So here's one of the problems that we had with the sculpt tool is you're going to have this here, this arch. You will have to kind of go through and fix that with your guides, although it shouldn't take too long. You only really have to fix it on the outermost layer because that's the only bit people will see this. And there's also the eyebrows incredibly flat. But you know, for block out it will do. Go to my outliner. Oh no, outline charm box. There we go. So yeah, something like that will do. Xgen. With eyebrows, you'll pretty much never need more than 1 layer of clumping, so keep that in mind. If you want more than 1 layer of clumping on the eyebrows, either they're really, really bushy or you're kind of overusing it. So try to avoid that. Set up maps, generate. Random 0.5, 1.5. This is something I quite like to do at the moment as well. It just adds a bit more randomization to the clumps, which means you get different clump sizes, which is obviously kind of a lot more realistic. Not all clumps are perfectly uniform. Something like that might do. Yeah. Random 0, 1. This random 0 and 1 isn't really technically correct, but it just breaks it up. Something I quite like to do. But yeah, so obviously I've got a lot more time to spend on this, but I'll probably do that in a separate recording session because it kind of gives you the point really of the video is just generating your guides. So yeah, hope this has been helpful. Sorry I can't really do it as live streaming anymore, obviously it means I can't really take questions on the fly. But hopefully these are still informative enough to kind of get you going. And yeah, so hopefully soon on Facebook I'll update this with like proper guides and how to actually do the modifiers and make the eyebrows look like eyebrows. But yeah, so thanks for watching, and any feedback would be much appreciated. Obviously it's kind of my first time doing a video tutorial for CG. So yeah, cheers.